5 p.m. on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. Okay, do we need to introduce ourselves to everybody?
I don't think so.
Nope.
No, I think we all know each other. Okay. So the next order of business is approval of the November 12th agenda. Do I have any additions, subtractions, comments? If not, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone saying no? Ayes have it. Okay, approval of the October 15th minutes. Any comments, additions, subtractions, corrections?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the October 15th, 2024 minutes as presented.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those approved, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, open to the public. I don't think my two dogs count. Or do we have anybody in the conference room?
Just Bob and myself.
All right, then we will close it to the public. So, at 5:06, Executive Director report.
Yeah, I don't have too much for y'all today. The biggest news is I spoke to our new senior planner, Karima Edwards, today. She will be starting her employment with us on Monday, the 18th. So next Monday, she will be here. She'll be taking over that Department of Labor Work 6 grant, helping with town planning and public engagement, regional plan. And we're going to try to see where she best fits in, instead of just immediately putting her as a replacement for Greg, maybe seeing if there's some new territory we can help with, because there's a lot of needs right now. So we're excited for Karima to join us, and I'm hoping she will be able to at least attend the board meeting next week virtually to introduce her to the full board. But if not, hopefully at our holiday meeting in December, we can have her join us then. So
Super.
Big news is we have submitted all the audit materials. Tomorrow we will complete our, I think it's tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll complete our first virtual audit, because the auditor is so busy this year and has had such delays getting materials. She's asking for us to do this virtually. Hopefully it will not change any result for us. We're expecting no findings as always. But big thank you to Mary Kay and Karen. They've been working really hard. And the hope and need is to have that audit approved by the board in December at our holiday meeting. That'll be our only piece of business to attend to. There are a ton of, oh, go ahead.
No, go.
Okay. Ton of new grant opportunities. I won't get into those now. I'll save them for the full board meeting. They were all in our newsletter that went out on Thursday. The bigger piece of news is that, believe it or not, the MERP awards have been announced.
And?
So, Benson, Brandon, Chittenden, Fairhaven, Middletown Springs, Mount Tabor, Pollitt, Pulteney Town, Pulteney Village, and West Haven all received awards. Interesting enough, 2 of those towns were not high energy burden, and a couple of our towns that were high energy burden, Rutland City and West Rutland, did not get awards. So I thought that was interesting. We're just glad it's done. We've been waiting with bated breath for almost 3.5 weeks now. The big news is that these agreements have to be signed and returned by the 16th of December. So pretty short turnaround period for towns. So Jeremy will be reaching out to those towns. Apologies to all of you who didn't get it. there just wasn't enough money to go around. And frankly, we didn't really know who was going to get what at the end of the day. It's been a black box for a big portion of it. So the last bit, again, was in the newsletter, but we'll talk about a little bit more in the regional plan update. That's the future land use map update. So our methodology is due to the legislature at the end of the year. We have to start our plan map update immediately starting in January. So our plan is to meet with all towns in the region to review the draft map and get buy-in and weigh-in from those communities on those maps. We envision a bit of a working meeting that will include both the select board and the planning commission for each town. But it's going to be a serious sprint to June. And I'll get into that sprint in a minute here with the regional plan update. But before I get into that, any questions?
Yeah, Devin, is the
No.
auditor aware of our kind of a deadline to have that back before December 9th, our meeting?
Yes, they are. And they
They
have
are.
promised us to get that to us before the 9th, so we have time to review it.
Okay, good.
Good. Good.
Great question. Any others? Okay. So, regional plan update. I won't go through the normal course because you guys know it all. But the biggest change is regarding our timeline. So, as part of Act 181, there was a provision in there that for the first time, our regional plan is needing approval other than the Board of Commissioners from the new Land Use Board, the LURB. As you know, the LURB has not even formed yet. They're accepting applications now, and hopefully we'll have that body formed by the end of the year, early next year. What this new provision entails is 60 days prior to our first public hearing for the regional plan, we must submit our draft plan to the land use board. They have 60 days to review it and get us back comments. So what that has done to our regional plan development process is kicked it out an additional 75 days. And since we have no room at the end, because our plan expires June 18th of 2026, we had to take that out of the beginning of, or out of the earlier stages. So what this means, and I'll bring up the plan process guide. Okay, just as a little bearings here, this first is our first phase. This was our kickoff in March all the way through our retreat in October. We're right now in our phase 2 drafting phase.
Mhm.
So we just completed the first drafts, which is right here. And we are in our second round of public engagement, phase 2. So next we will be doing our second full draft, which we're calling Task 3 Rev 1. And instead of waiting, we had planned to wait to bring this draft to the board until June originally, or April rather, sorry. And now we're going to have to bring that way up to January so the board has a chance to see it much earlier in the process. This should make a few of our members who've been vocal about it happy. So we're expecting comments back from that draft by February. So at our February meeting, we'll discuss those comments in person. Then we will go back and do another revision and have the plan in full form to send to the Board of Commissioners, not for approval, but last review in June. That'll give us time in July and August to incorporate comments and bring it back to the board for now. Our board vote has moved all the way up to September 30, 2025. Our board vote in our first plan development process wasn't going to be until December. So this is where we lost those 75 days. So this is the new provision. We submit it to the LRRB in October, right after this adoption date. The first public hearing will be December 19th, which will be 2 months and 2 weeks after the LRRB submission. So it gives us another 2 weeks to adjust for any of those comments. We'll have our first public meeting on January 20th. Give us another month to make any changes based on that first hearing. We'll present to the RPC board again with the final draft. And then we will have our final public hearing on April 21st after warning it on the 2nd. After that public hearing, we can, it will be adopted. And then our plan does not take effect until 35 days after adoption, which puts us on at May 26, 2026. So our only little bit of room we have, and I don't even want to offer it as room because it really isn't, is our plan technically does not expire until June 18th, but we're talking a matter of what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks there?
Yeah.
So that being said, when we undertook this 2.5 year, 3 year development process, it felt like we had all the time in the world. And now what this is telling us is by June, we need to have our future land use map done, completely finalized as part of this final draft to submit to the board in June. So I do want to highlight, the board will see the draft in in January. They'll see it again in June, and then they'll see it again in September, and then adopt in April. So that's quite a few opportunities for the board to see the full first draft. This is really going to make things extremely tight. And it reduced our final round of public engagement to only 1 month, but that's okay. It will be in June. Any questions on this new timeline? We're pretty handcuffed. There's nothing we can do. It's in statute. It's new. We have no idea what the LRRB will be reviewing our plans on besides just the future land use map. And when we submit this to the LRRB, it's not shown here, but the new provision requires us to submit to 5 other state agencies as well for their review. So as you can see, this regional plan is also a state plan in some ways, in that the Board of Commissioners is not the only entity that has to review this. There's one other piece I'll mention too, not to throw you off completely, but within 15 days of adoption, we have to send it back to the LRRB for final approval. And if they do not approve the plan, we have 18 months to get it into working order and bring it back to them. Our plan is not, it doesn't nullify the adoption. We will still have an adopted plan, but it does complicate that. So there are a few factors around the LRRB review that we just don't know, which in my mind necessitates us being as thoughtful and thorough as possible to make sure that we don't have any sort of hiccups in the adoption phase of this plan. So between now and June, it's going to be a full-on sprint to the finish line for our staff. I am worried about capacity because, as you all know, we're doing more now than we ever have. And each of our planners is really tapped out. So this will be a real effort to get us there. I'm fully confident that we can do it. And really, we don't have a choice. So that means we are doing it. Where I think this matters the most is it really relates to our next agenda item, but I think, I can start with it now. And that is to make sure that our board is in alignment with this schedule, has ample opportunity to review and comment on the plan, but also understands that if we void this plan, if we do not adopt, we're in serious trouble. And we lose a lot of authority and power, and frankly, the entire point of the Regional Planning Commission. So what I think is really necessary is for us to really come together as a board next week and discuss what we're actually doing, what the intent is, and what is required. And that'll bring us to our next agenda item if you guys don't have questions on the timeline, but I'm open for those if you do now.
No, I think we're ready to hear the rest of it.
Okay. So I was really encouraged partially by some of the feedback we got at our last board meeting. I was also extremely concerned by some of the feedback we got at the last board meeting. Mainly because there seems to be a real disconnect, and rightfully so. We haven't had a regional plan update in over a decade, and not a substantive one that's come before the board. So what really dawned on me after that meeting was I need to do a much better job of educating, not you all, you guys get it. You've been involved up to this point. I need to do a much better job educating the board as to what is legally required to be in our plan. And that whether you disagree with it or not, doesn't nullify the fact that it has to be there. And there were some comments in the meeting about, well, maybe we should make a stand, and we can do that through our legislative delegation. I would totally support that. I will invite them to an upcoming board meeting. But there is no authority and no value in fighting statute through a plan. That is the wrong place, wrong time. And it really makes me question what we're doing here if that's what we want to do. So we'll put that aside. And I think I would like to go into this meeting describing the plan development process, what we've done up to this point, how this new provision affects the schedule, and how we've amended the schedule to bring that timeline up, but also provide more opportunities for the board to see the full plan. And then I would like to have a presentation to the board that explains the statutory required planning elements for a regional plan, the purpose of the regional plan, and the state planning goals. I was really surprised by some of the comments, and I know they were constant members, and it's hard to know where the rest of our membership is. Sometimes that silence means they agree, sometimes it doesn't. But ultimately, our commission currently is made up of primarily town planning commission members. And the state planning goals are the same for your town plan as it is the regional plan. And those are the guiding principles behind the regional plan and this update. So when we have debates over energy efficiency or climate change or historic settlement patterns, I worry because those are not only planning, state planning goals, they're required planning elements, and they're purposes of the regional plan. So I think it's a chance for us to sort of recalibrate and say, okay, I get it. We don't love everything that has to go in here, but it doesn't change the fact that it still needs to go in there. So if that all sounds good to you all, that's something I want to pursue as the focus for the November meeting, knowing that they're going to see this full draft in January. So I'd like to take the November meeting, knowing we're not going to get into anything in December because that's a holiday party, and then the January meeting to do some education before they see that full draft.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Does.
Did you guys have any major
idea.
takeaways from that meeting?
I
Yeah,
missed a good meeting, huh?
Yeah, you
Yeah, it
did.
got a little spicy. It actually got a
I'll
really
watch the
good.
recording if you have it.
It is on our YouTube page. You can find it right on our boards and committees link. I'm just curious, do you guys have thoughts? Do you have the same concerns that I do?
Yeah, it's a board of commissioners, kind of an education piece. This is not the forum for personal agendas.
Right.
You're representing your town, your select board. If you don't have communication, you should have. Yeah, and at the same time, we were always taught 100 years ago that you're representing your town, but when you step into this position, you also have to look at the bigger picture, being the region.
Mhm.
And so that's, yeah, maybe this isn't
Right.
quite fitting your town, but it fits the region. So yeah, it's just a step back, and this is why we're here.
You know what might be really valuable, and I'm certainly not going to ask you to do anything you all don't want to do. But sometimes I think when I'm up there talking in a meeting, they really see me sometimes as, especially a few members, and I don't need to name names, as sort of the other. I'm the paid guy who's the professional planner who's, wants this and isn't, sort of has an agenda, which obviously I don't. I think, Larry, exactly what you just said, coming from you or Laura or Erica or Bob or all four of you, would be tremendously profound coming from a commissioner to say, especially with your tenured, you guys have been here decades now and really can speak to this is not your first regional plan. You know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of value coming from a commissioner saying, listen, we've been down this road before. Most, if not 90% of the state statutory requirements for this plan are the same requirements that were in 2018 and 2012 and 2008 and every subsequent plan. So if that's something you guys would be willing to do, I think that would move mountains. And Erica, sorry, I know you have something to say.
No, that's pretty much what I was going to say. Is I think the thing is, the way you just explained it to us, we more or less need to try and explain it to the full board. Is we may not like certain things in it, but this is what the state requires. This is what we have to do. And speaking to what you said, Larry, you're a commissioner. Yes, you represent your town. You represent the region. You do not represent your own personal feelings.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. And we can't be sucked into debates about whether climate change is real or not. The state and the governor, who is a Republican, and the legislature, which is diverse, all agree climate change is real. And I think our commission agrees climate change is real. We can't fight on denying it. I think we got to that's just one example of, those sidetrack sort of thoughts that really provide no value and feedback to our plan. And I think that's what was missing, was a lot of, well, I don't like this, but not a lot of feedback as to, well, what do you like, or what would you change about it? That being said, I think I need to do a way better job, and I plan to next meeting next week, saying that, listen, this plan needs to be a pro-development, pro-business plan, but also balancing the huge needs to protect natural resources, because a lot of our towns, Shrewsbury being one of them, that is what they want more than maybe a place like Rutland City that doesn't have as many natural resources. The point is, I think the plan policies as described in the forum of our last meeting came off of, as we want to restrict growth, we want to restrict development, we want to restrict everything. And we don't. We want to encourage housing. We want to encourage growth. We want to encourage workforce development and job growth and business development. Obviously, we desperately need it. So I will do a much better job of sort of recalibrating, saying, hey, this plan's intent is to guide that growth, not to eliminate it, to encourage it, but guide it. Because I know you all, not you all, there are certain members that think we need to eliminate all regulations, period, that restrict any growth and development. But I guarantee you, every single one of your town select boards would very much disagree with that statement. And they wouldn't want growth in certain areas that preserve the, scenic heritage of your town. So I think we can absolutely strike that balance, but I think it needs to be grounded in the fact that there are requirements, just like your town plan. I don't see any of you guys throwing away your town plan because you don't like the town planning goals. You comply and you write it based on your town. So that's our charge as a regional plan. So, yeah.
Yes. Well, I think we need to present not necessarily a united front, but a united front, not confrontational united, but a front that says, yes, we have the same problem. I may not like certain sections of it. You may not like certain sections of it, but for the better good, this is what we have to do.
I agree. And at the end of the day, you guys might be on the executive committee and you might be officers of the Regional Planning Commission, but you're also members of your municipalities and representing your town just like any other commissioner. You know what I mean? It's not, doesn't eliminate that role for you. And I think, maybe people sort of forget that a little bit when they see Erica as chair, but you're Erica commissioner from Wallingford, you know what I mean? So I am not waving the flag. I am not like, oh boy, we have a serious issue here. I don't think that's true. I think the board is very supportive, but I think generally more education will serve us better in this case. So,
well, I think having just come from public hearings with our with our zoning regulations, the one thing that we constantly had to remind everybody at a public hearing or somebody who came in was that we also live in Wallingford. We also pay taxes in Wallingford. We're also concerned about Wallingford. And I think those of us that are on the committee here, we need to keep on reminding people that we are also residents of Rutland. And we may not be paying property taxes to the town of Rutland, to West Rutland or Shrewsbury or Wallingford or Hubbardton, but we are still living and breathing, hopefully, good air in this where we are living, and we are concerned. And this is going to help us get that concern out of the way. We do not, and my husband is from New Jersey, we do not want to Jerseyize Rutland.
I think everyone agrees with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we don't have a strong plan, that can and will happen. It's that simple. So,
I mean, frankly, I don't know, a lot of times when we all review Act 250 applications with the regional plan, I don't feel like we have a strong plan now. You know, it's pretty much impossible not to comply with the regional plan as written. And I'm not saying we need to add a whole bunch of roadblocks, but when we use it for the Regional Planning Commission, it's not very useful in its current form. We want to make something that's useful. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Any other comments? Anyone? No,
great.
I think you've got the support. Just tell us what you need from us to do.
Okay. Yep. Erica, we'll touch base offline, but
Yep.
yeah, that sounds great. Thank you all. And, obviously, the amount you all have handled and seen this plan is much greater than anybody else's. So I get it. But we will very shortly be releasing that plan in a matter of 2 months. So I think everyone will be happy at that fact. Otherwise, there will be no community committee, and there will be a regional committee. Not a ton of Act 250 applications, surprisingly, and very few Section 248. So it will probably be a pretty light meeting. And with that, we can talk about financials. So I forward those all along to you. We have the September 2024 financials. The P&L reflects a net income of roughly 155,000. It's high due to ECCD's second quarter invoice in September. We will be working on a budget update to bring to the board in January. This is primarily due to staff changes, the Work 6 grant, and the 86,000 we received with our state funds for regional planning. So the idea is to update it with the new revenue, the new staff, and bring it all back to you for approval in January. Line 402 is low. Towns will be invoiced the FY25 dues in November, so those will be going out. We decided to hold off on those to not create confusion with our FY26 dues change and towns thinking it would be in effect now. So those are going out. Line 403.5, it's low. Same as always, it's the QUISP expenses. Some are not invoiced for yet. It's still a very slow rollout of the program. We will be invoicing the Formula 2, however, for the first time with this new billing. That'll be submitted on the 27th. We have run out of admin funds. We still have a lot of project funds left for Formula 1. So we will be probably dipping into both funding sources coming up. We're hoping and optimistic that we're really going to get that project money out. It's been tough to find projects. Line 404.5, buildings, general services. That's high. You can imagine why. We just helped submit about 19 applications for MERP. That will be slowing down a little bit once we get all those contracts signed. Line 407, U.S. Department of Energy. We still don't have an agreement from the department, so no activity. 419, it's low. We're waiting for new agreements to come in. Flood bylaw from FEMA, no idea when that's coming. It's very much late. And CPRG, the Climate Pollution Reduction Act, I just got that and signed it, so we should finally be seeing that. And then finally, transit-oriented development in state brownfields work is expected to ramp back up. On the expense side, subscriptions is high. Just by capturing our big, what website, Adobe, Canva subscriptions early in the year. 505 is high because of 4 rental payments been captured through September 30. On the accounts receivable side, as of September 30th, total roughly 387,000. As of 11/12 today, it's totaled 117,000. And then I let you guys know, but I'll repeat it. The audit is in full swing. We're going remote this year. And we will be doing the remote desktop audit tomorrow. Any questions on financials? Great. Things are looking good. You know, I think once we get through the audit, doing the budget update will be really helpful to forecast the second half of the year, especially with Karima coming on and some of these new grant sources. So looking good there. In terms, just a quick circle back on FY26 town dues. I've met with several town select boards and talked to them about the updates so far. None have expressed serious concern. It has not gone before the Board of Aldermen, so that one, it has been included in their budget by the mayor. I will plan to go and talk to that board during their budget cycle and tell them why. One town has asked me to actually come back, and that's Clarendon, to speak with their town tomorrow night during their budget meeting. I already went to their select board once, but I'll do it again. Their dues went from 1,000 to 2,200. But I am hopeful that we will not have any towns vote against our dues increase. I think, as you all know, the work speaks for itself. And I think we do a good job of describing why the change is necessary. So I will keep you updated if anything changes. And then the last bit of sort of like housekeeping, well, 2 things. One, our reports to town, for town to be included in the town report. Those are going to be going out very soon. Last year, we had our first ever generalized report. And I'm curious, did you all like it? Do you think we should continue with that generalized report versus the town report specific to the town?
Yeah, personally, I go with the generalized.
There you are.
Yeah, it's a lot less work than you're trying to individual for each town.
I agree, Larry. There's so much of our work now that is regional and maybe not specific to the town, and that gets lost in the town specific report. Like our work with the transit district, that isn't related to any one town. It's actually related to 14 towns, right? I had a couple towns ask if we had a specific report last year. You know, I just said no, and they were okay with it. It is a lot less work, and I do question our old report was so in the weeds on like specific programs and projects. I don't know if anyone really understood what it said. You know, when we're sort of like, we provided technical assistance to the municipal roads general permit, people are like, what the hell is that? You know, so I'm trying to make it more relatable to the average person that would actually read a town report, but I'm always willing to take feedback if you think we should make a change.
Now, I
Yeah, I think the regional report should be regional, and then things that happened in the town specifically should be in the municipal planning report. And then they
Yeah.
can mention what they did with the RRPC.
Yeah, our VAPTA report, you know, has every little nitty gritty thing we did in the year, and that's 6 or 7 pages long. What we can do is link this report to that report. So that if they want to really see what did we do individually, we can do that. It's a good idea, Larry.
That's a good idea.
Oh, and then lastly, sorry, I knew there's one other thing. I have finished the commissioner's handbook.
Congratulations.
Oh my God, what an effort. Now I am just working with one of our staffers to make it look very pretty. If you all want, I can just send you the Word version after this meeting so you can at least see it. It really hits home, Larry, with what you said. There's an entire section about sort of what the responsibilities of a commissioner are and what the best practices of a commissioner should be. And it really speaks to, hey, you should communicate with your select board, you should consider the region, you should leave your personal, agendas at home. So maybe it could even be helpful with this whole discussion with the board. So I'm not sure I'll have it ready for the prime time for November, but let me at least share it with you all so you can see it before I get it into Canva and all prettied up.
Good idea.
And that's the last I've got. Do
Super.
you guys want to do commissioner updates this time? We haven't done that in quite a while. We also can just go home.
I have one commissioner update. Just
All
one.
right.
After 7 years, the town of Wallingford voted to approve the zoning regulations.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
Woohoo!
Congrats.
Congratulations.
7.
Now you're ready for the town plan.
Aha, thanks.
How about,
I know that was a long time coming. Good for you.
oh boy.
Congratulations.
Rewrites and everything else, and it didn't pass with an overwhelming majority, but by at least 40 or 50 votes, so we don't have to do a recount. And I'm happy.
Good.
Good.
Yeah,
How many
exactly.
people showed up for the vote?
It was something like 487 against and 531 for. So do the math. 900 and
Good.
some.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot you guys put it on the ballot. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah. How about Shrewsbury? Any updates from Laura?
Not really. Can't think of anything happening of any consequence or particular interest.
All right. And we can talk
Pass.
village center designations later or another time if you want.
Yes,
Laura.
please. Right. That would be great. Yeah.
How about Larry? Anything amended?
Yeah, I just noticed today after our scoping study, they borrowed from the state police a radar sign. So now you can see how much you're going over the speed limit.
Oh, good. Trying it out.
Yeah.
Well, if it's any help, Larry, we've got one in Wallingford, and it kind of does help. We've got one on 7, and sitting at Kelly's this past summer, you could see the cars going, and then when that thing starts flashing, they start.
Yeah, it does. Some of them are great. They have
Yeah.
red, blue lights on them, and yeah.
Yep. So
And Chittenden has one. I was up there today.
They have a
Barstow
fixed.
School, and that's got a long range. Way back, it starts telling you
Yeah.
to slow down to 25.
Yep. And that one's fixed to a pole.
Yes.
And Mendon, I can report, is finally starting their zoning bylaw update as well, which is good. Yeah. They've got a small working group going.
Good.
What about Hubbardton?
Is that a gig town Fidium fiber in front
That
of
is.
Commissioner Gibbs?
Thank you.
I told him he couldn't put it on his mantle. He had to bring it to the town office.
That's
He
right.
was disappointed.
It's a marketing advertise for Fidium fiber to put in the town office. Yeah.
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 Seriously.
Whatever.
Any updates, sir?
Well, the thing, we're thinking about getting ready to start our budgeting work here in this next few weeks.
Yes, sir.
Well, good. Sounds like all of us did very, very well and are continuing to do very well. So Unless there's
Indeed.
anything else, I think we can adjourn. I have 2 dogs that are trying to get on my lap over here.
And I have another meeting representing Devon.
So there you go.
What's that? Alumni?
Yeah, yeah. See what they're up to.
Well, I finally did my part, Larry, so
You did,
thank
thank
you.
you. Yep.
No, it was fun. I appreciated the invite.
Well, thank you for coming.
So actually, unless there's any objections, may I have a motion to adjourn at 17:50 hours or 10 minutes to 6 or 5:50, depending on where you are.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. I'll second it.
May I, any objections? Then we are adjourned.
Thank
So,
you all.
Thank
Great
you.
to see
Bye,
you.
everyone.
well,
All right.
We'll see you later.
See you
see you
soon.
next week. Have a good one. Have a good weekend.